We are live. Good morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where you are in the world. Hello, hello. There we are. Welcome, Rebel Riders. I am so excited today to kick off a brand new series here in our Rebel Riders group called Rebel Riders in Action. So many of you out there are doing the work. You're writing the things, whether it's a book or a blog or your newsletters, right? You're getting your message out there into the world. And I thought, what a fantastic way to keep the momentum going than to highlight all of us who are those Rebel Riders in action. And I am so excited to present to you today my dear friend Nicole, who is about to launch her book into the world. And I'm so excited to talk to you today, Nicole, and for everybody here in our Rebel Riders community to hear from you about your process, about the excitement, about your message that you are out here to share with the world. So welcome, Nicole. I will officially introduce you to the group here. Nicole is an oracle of divine transmissions. She is a channeler and mentor who assists spiritually evolving gentle souls to have more clarity, peace, and live their divinity, which is something we're going to dig deep into today, I think. But what she is most passionate about is assisting gentle souls to embrace their power and be the master of their life, bringing peace and harmony on the planet, one heart at a time. Welcome, Nicole. I'm so glad you are here.
I'm so happy to be sharing this time with you and everybody watching.
Mm-hmm. So you have a brand new book coming out, and this is not your first book. But this is Back to Love Again, a giver's guide to reconnect with your inner strength. And that's something that you and I have spoken about before over in Midwest Elevation, right? Bringing that divinity to our everyday lives and really working to uplift the planet. Just as you said, one heart at a time, one individual at a time. We're all here doing the work. So I love your message. And I am so excited for this book to come out. Tell us just a little bit about how this all came to be for you. How did you decide to write this particular book?
I did not decide. I received the title of the book and it's just like, okay, it's just a title. Don't have to do anything with it. And then a few years later, I started to receive the titles of the chapters. And then it was there. And then I you know how life it is when you're meant to do something. I was finding all kinds of things to start writing my book. And I found the program with Christine Closure, Get Your Book Done. And I still didn't have the idea of writing the book. It was just floating there, my energy, until it started. And then I started channeling the meditations and the codes of light. Those are images that are highly infused with light frequency. And one day I was attending an event with Christine Closure, and that's when it became clear to me that if I wanted the reader to trust and believe, or just, understand what I was bringing through, that I had to share about my own life, my journey. Well, that was not part of what I understood.
That wasn't part of the original plan for you, huh?
No, I'm not the type of person that likes to share about my private life. It's just like, it's me. I'm just living a normal life like everybody else, And here I am writing the book and having to talk about all kinds of things. Like if we take the first chapter, it talks about fear. Well, I'm talking about fear as a child, in a dysfunctional family. what happened through writing all these events in the book that brought me on my spiritual path helped me to revisit and see what was totally healed and what wasn't.
Wow.
And as I went through the book many times to edit, I could feel and sense within me how deep the healing was. And at some point, there are some parts I'm reading and I feel like, who am I talking about? It doesn't feel like it's attached to me anymore.
Mm, that's beautiful. How freeing.
Yeah, well, you see, I was so hesitant, and I think I cried my whole life in 1 week because I was about to write about my life and I didn't want it. Was no way, there's no way I'm going to do that. And the divine has its gentle way of just encouraging you, and just you sleep on it. And when you completely surrender, and I started writing, and there's some parts of it, the way it's written, it's clear that I have been guided to write it this way.
That's beautiful. Well, and I love that you talk about the resistance that came up for you. Here in Rebel Writers, we talk about resistance in all sorts of ways. And sometimes being rebellious really serves us, right? Like your message is not a mainstream message, but, we're getting closer. We're getting closer to having more and more people understand that this type of divinity and access to our spiritual, team is out there for us. But that in and of itself can be a rebellious message and scary to write about because you're not sure how other people, and then, taking it to that next level and adding that those personal pieces that, like you said, allow the reader to trust you, right? You're human, you've gone through this experience, and there are pieces that many of us can probably relate to in your experiences. We're all here having this human experience and have some similarities, and so tying that into even sort of rebelling against that, well, I imagine you I imagine the conversation perhaps went something like, but I just want to teach people how to use these guided meditations. They I'm just here for that. I don't want to,
Yeah, I'll do the artwork, and I'll stay in the back row. No, it doesn't work that way.
No.
But I understand it can be daunting, and it's a process. It's a process, and I think this book is for us as givers. We tend to forget ourselves, so all the TLC that we give to others to help them to go through an event or difficult times, we have to do the same for ourselves. And when I was just like, there's no way I'm doing this, I would just take the time to step back and go within and see, why am I resisting so much? And taking the time to take a few breaths before you sit down to write, and just recenter and realign and allow just to flow whatever comes, and not censor it. And sometimes that's when the gems just start popping up on the pages.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, allowing that flow. And it doesn't mean that everything you write in that flow is going to, make it into the book.
No, exactly. Exactly. Actually, the problem I have was I don't put enough details. The other people is they have to shrink it down, but for me, it's just like the editor said, well, could you put a little more about this or about that for your reader to understand? And it was quite a process.
Yeah. How long because you mentioned, it's definitely was over time. You had the idea, and kind of sat with that for a while, and then different pieces would show themselves. You said like the chapters and titles. So how long in total now to, you know, from the first download to your launch party, your launch celebration next week that we get to be a part of? How long was that?
Oh, it took me many years. It's about 12 years. I sat for quite some years, and I didn't receive anything else. It was just like, you will write a book and here's the title, and that was it. But when, I didn't know anything. So
I'm giggling because I'm so glad to hear you say 12 years, and hopefully some of our listeners out there are as well, because I have 2 or 3 book titles, and every once in a while it comes back. Like, I just know that someday, but it's just not quite ready yet.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's many things that, you know, life still goes on while we write the book and as we welcome what is coming. I mean, last year I finished writing the manuscript, sent it in to the editor, and then we moved. And doing renovations in the house at the same time until the manuscript came back again, and I had to go through all the editing and revising everything. And there are many, many steps. So maybe some people can do it very quickly, but for me, it was a longer process.
Yeah. Especially with that move in the middle. Well, so take us into the book a little bit. You say that there's you did some artwork, and those have some channeled codes in that. Maybe give us a little bit about what that is and how when we read the book, those can be useful.
Each chapter has a little bit of my story, and like, I'll take again the first chapter. It talks about the valley of fear, and when you are in the valley of fear, it's because there's nowhere to hide. You're in the fear and you feel like you can't hide anywhere. And I talk about being raised in fear and living that many, not every day, but most of the days, and it becomes constant. So I talk about how it was for me, but then it links into a guided meditation to release the fears that we have, all the attachments and belief systems and patterns that we might have that keeps us into the fear. And we can release all those, because if they don't serve you anymore, you don't have to carry those anymore. And to enhance that, there's a code that goes with it. It's a channeled image. And with that, as soon as you look at that image, it begins to activate within you. It activates the frequencies for you to release the fear and to bring in the new energies that you need.
That's incredible. I cannot wait to get my hands on this book. So, yeah, I'm excited. And I know, let's talk a little bit about your launch celebration that's happening next week.
Yes, Tuesday, the 21st of June on Solstice Day at 7 p.m. Eastern. And it's an event, it's on Eventbrite right now. Easiest way to have people to be able to register. We're doing this on Zoom live. And for all that register on Zoom, they will be receiving some giveaways. Little hint is more codes.
Yay! I'm going to go ahead and drop that link here in our Facebook group. And if you are here, please give us hello. And if you have any questions for Nicole, certainly put them in the chat. One more thing I want to touch on, because it's not the title of your book, right? Back to Love Again, but it's that subtitle that's really calling to me. And you touched on it briefly at the beginning here, The Giver's Guide to Reconnect with Your Inner Strength. And I think many of us, especially here in the community, can identify with that giver mentality, right? And the work we do to reconnect with that inner strength. Why why was this such an important, I mean, so important, obviously, that it needs to be part of the subtitle, right? So we know, but why is this piece important to you? And how do you see the importance of, you know, people who are quote unquote givers, that need to reconnect?
Well, because sometimes when you have a family, you have children, you have parents maybe you care for, you're the type of person who's always there for everybody else, but at some point you kind of forget yourself. I went through 2 burnouts.
Mm.
And it's my journey back to self-love that was able to, that's how I was able to, you know, heal myself and what saved me was really my faith and just trusting the divine. I've always talked to them like we're talking, you and me right now. So it's just that has held me throughout everything I was going through. And because you can lose yourself in helping always others, and you don't have time for yourself and you don't make time for yourself, and learning not to feel selfish because you decide that, you know, I will say no this time. And those are all things that I learned on my own. It's not something that I learned as a child. As a child, I had to be quiet, not say a word, do not, you know, raise any commotion around you, just try to disappear. So it's always denying yourself. And with my inner gifts, I mean, I was having premonitions when I was young, and I started to have, you know, someone who was dying and all. And at some point I said, no way, there is no way I'm going to continue with that. It's just boring. It's just so bad. It's only bad news. I don't want to have anything to do with that.
Yeah.
Until, well, by denying those inner gifts, I started to feel sick. And there was nothing wrong medically because I went to see the doctor and he thought, you know, it was more depressive than anything else. And it wasn't it. It was just because I was denying a part of me. And it was my father that told me, you know, you don't have to do anything with it, but you have to accept it is part of you. It is who you are.
Yeah.
And that relieved me, that the words of you don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to use it. Okay, just acknowledge that it's there. Perfect. That was perfect for me at that moment. And until one day after surgery, it became clear that you cannot sit on the fence anymore. It's either you engage or you don't. There was no question of one is good and one is bad. It was just, this is a choice you make. And I chose to go full on. So that's why now I'm channeling. And if you would have asked me 20 years ago, I would have said, never in a million years will I allow anyone to take possession of my body to bring through messages.
And yet here we are.
Yes, here I am. And it's all in the book.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for the path that this will open up for so many of your readers. It really is a book that can be used as a path to more healing. And we need so much more of that in this world for each of us, and in such a gentle way. You know, Nicole, I love that you do mention your channels if you want to put a little plug in, because you do a weekly channel in your Facebook group. So if folks want to check you out, where can they find you on Facebook?
Well, they can find me in Global Wellness Energy for now, but pretty soon after the launch, I will be transferring all of that into my private group, which is Grace and Transcendent Heart.
All right, we'll get those in there as well.
I just wanted to add, when you were working with the guided meditations and the codes in my book, in the beginning, in the author's note, there is the link to download the guide I have. I call it the Divine Connection Booster. It's just doing the anchoring of your pillar of light. And that's really, really important to do the anchoring before you do the work with the codes and the meditations, because those are high frequencies. And just to keep you in balance in your energies and centered. It's very important to do. And also I have added a link in the book for people that wish to work with the codes more. They can download the codes also. It's all in the book.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So it's not just for sitting back and reading pleasure. It's really, really a guide to help us back to love again.
I love the books that have recipes in them.
Yes, this is a recipe for life.
Well, yeah, because, you know, if it can help at least one person to not have to go through everything I went through to heal, and this can heal that person, you know, on many levels, then I'm really happy. It's just I've been guided to do this, and I've worked with Divine Mother and angelic mothers and many other beings of light through this book, and it was really beautiful to channel this work with them.
So beautiful. So beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Nicole, for being here today, dropping in and talking to us about your writing process. And I'm so excited to join you next week for the book celebration. And any of you who are interested in joining us next week, feel free to register at the Eventbrite link in the comments below. And if you have any questions, just tag us and we'll see them later today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see everyone next week.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicole.
Thanks for
Thanks,
having
Rebel
me.
Writers. Yep.